Hey everyone, and welcome back. So it's time to look at the new Nintendo Switch and Switch 2 releases for this week. And I've got to say, it's a massive week, with probably what's going to be one of the biggest titles for the Switch 2 releasing, and also a bunch of little indie games. Not only that, but I think there's a really nice mix-up of genres for this week, with probably a little bit of something for everyone. I will be mentioning prices in US dollars, but all the regional equivalents will be on screen. So now let's jump into the games, and don't forget, help support the channel, hit that like button, and subscribe if you aren't already. Now we're going to get started today with the Nintendo Switch 2 games, and our first game I think needs very little introduction because it's most likely going to be the biggest Switch 2 release of the year, and that is Donkey Kong Bananza, that's smashing its way onto the console on July 17th and will be selling for a price of $69.99. Now, many people are calling this game the Mario Odyssey-ification of Donkey Kong, and I think they're underestimating just how original this experience is going to feel. And the best of all is that each and every trailer that was released for the game, I got more excited for it, rather than just feeling like I've already seen this before. The transformations look extremely cool, and not only that, I've heard people point to the fact that we haven't seen all the transformations that are available, and we're most likely going to have many more surprises as we play through the game. I, for one, am super excited for this title. I'm going to be playing it Thursday night. I invite you all to join me on stream to do so all together. And one way or the other, I'm finally happy to see DK getting his time to shine in a proper 3D platforming format. Now next, we have a cross-generational title that will be releasing with a Switch 2 version and a Switch 1 version, and that is Shadow Labyrinth, that is coming on July 18th and will be selling for $29.99. Now this game describes itself as a 2D action platformer and a genre-twisting alternate take on the iconic Pac-Man franchise. And I've got to say, it's one of the craziest takes on an original arcade franchise, which seems to be switching it almost into a roguelike Metroidvania format, and ultimately actually throws in Pac-Man mazes right in the middle of the action. Now this is once again one of my most anticipated games of the summer, and I can't wait to pick up and play this one. And we will be doing so on Friday's stream, so I once again invite you all to join me there. But I love the risks they're taking here in transforming this classic franchise in such a dark and crazy direction, and I'm just hoping that it all gels together and delivers an amazing experience. Not only that, but I'm liking that $30 price point, which will probably give a chance for a lot of people to jump on board and try it out. Now we're going to jump into the Switch 1 titles. However, as usual, most of these will all run on the Nintendo Switch 2. If there's some slight minor issues on release, they most likely will get patched out later. And our first one for this week is going to be Dungeons & Dragons Neverwinter Nights 2 Enhanced Edition, that is releasing on July 15th, so it should actually be out by the time you're watching this video, and it will be selling for $29.99. Now, if you've never heard of this series before, it is one of the most iconic Dungeons & Dragons series. The story is fantastic, the gameplay is fun and addictive. It does, however, take quite a bit of investment to get used to the battle mechanics and really get a hang of all the combat systems. But this remake looks like it's being done in good fashion. Now, I am a little bit worried because Aspyr has been hit or miss on some of their remakes. Hopefully, this one is going to fall into the category of the worthwhile ones. But if you're an old school RPG fan, especially if you're a Dungeons & Dragons fan, I think this is definitely one of the games you need to check out for this week. And once again, that $30 price point is pretty decent.
Who can help us defeating the King of Shadows?
Bring in the accused.
Did you really think you could keep such relics of my people?
Now next, if we move over to July 16th, we have Hunter x Hunter Nen X Impact. I probably destroyed that, releasing at $59.99, and there is a deluxe edition for a few extra dollars. Now this describes itself as the first full-scale Hunter x Hunter fighting game, and you'll be creating teams of characters to face off in 3v3 battles. Now, personally, I'm not the biggest Hunter x Hunter fan out there, which is why I probably murdered the title of the game, but at the same time, the combat here looks very, very enticing, and it is done by Arc System Works. Generally, they know fighting games. Now, if I'm looking for a quick comparison, I definitely gotta say that the combat reminds me of Dragon Ball FighterZ. However, maybe with the action toned down a bit to be more in line with this series. But I'm pretty confident with this developer behind it that most likely if you are a fan of the Hunter x Hunter franchise, that this game will definitely be a fun experience. I just don't necessarily see it hitting the mainstream. It also has a price tag of $59.99, which is a full price title, and most likely it's because of the franchise behind this, but I do see that as a sort of door stopper for a lot of people. Now next, that brings us to Neon Noodles, that will be releasing on July 16th and will be selling for $19.99. Now this game describes itself as an open-ended, culinary-themed machine-building puzzle game, where you program robotic chefs to cook 250 recipes from around the world, consisting of 400 unique ingredients. And I've got to say, the gameplay here looks extremely enticing and addictive. I'm a fan of these puzzle games where you have to build these automated systems. There are many examples on the Switch, and generally, if they're done well, they become extremely enticing pickups. I don't necessarily see this becoming someone's main game, but it's definitely a great time killer before bed or something like that. And this one's visual presentation also seems to be extremely on point, so I definitely think that if you're in the market for a new puzzle-focused game, this one could be a great pickup for this week. That brings us to our next game, which is going to be... Now, we're still on July 17th. It's actually going to be a pretty big day for releases this week, and we're going to take a look at Anomaly Collapse, that is going to be selling for $19.99. Now, this game describes itself as a fresh twist on the turn-based strategy game, which thrusts you into an innovative one-dimensional battlefield grid where movements are minimized but strategy is maximized. Now, I've got to say, definitely here, the art style in the game is very enticing to me. I also really like the character designs with the humanoid animals. It's always going to be a winner for a lot of people. It's also already available on Steam, and although there aren't that many reviews, they are generally all tending towards the positive. And they point to the game having a lot of depth strategy-wise, so I do think that if you're in the strategy turn-based genre for this week, this is going to be one of your best pickups besides the Dungeons & Dragons game that we saw a little bit earlier. Now, still on the 17th, we also have another game coming out that I want to take a look at with Diluvian Winds that is going to be selling for $14.99. Now, once again, this describes itself as a relaxing management game where you need to welcome weary travelers and work together to expand your hamlet on land, under the sea, and among the clouds. That seems to be a theme for this week with the management city builders, but this one does seem to be taking it in a different direction, more focusing on the individual characters and really building up your city person by person with more maybe character development around it. It's also slightly more on the budget spectrum, so if anyone is looking for a game in this genre but doesn't necessarily want to drop almost $30, well, you have a better option here, maybe more on the budget spectrum. Once again, the art style seems to really work for this cozy sim type game. However, I would maybe say for this one to wait for a review or two to come in to really see where it falls on the quality side. And when I said that city builders and time management games were a theme for this week, I wasn't lying, because we have yet another one releasing on July 17th that also seems interesting, with Cardboard Town also selling for $14.99. Now, this one describes itself as a city building card game where you manage resources, earn upgrades, and draw cards to thrive, with random events, quest cards, and varied gameplay. Now, although very different in its artistic presentation, I'm getting very much a classic SimCity vibe from this one, and I played hundreds of hours on SimCity and SimCity 2000 growing up. So this is definitely one that I will be trying, however, most likely over the next couple of weeks, simply because this week is just so jam-packed with big releases. And just as in the case as our previous game, I would maybe wait for a review or two on this one before dropping the cash. Now, our last game for this week is also releasing on July 17th, and that will be Bring You Home. That is $7.49. Now, I always like to include a really budget game at that under $10 price point, and for this week, I think this game is really going to be the most interesting pickup at that price point. Not only that, but the concept itself seems extremely interesting, where it's basically a puzzle adventure game where you actually don't control the hero, you rather control the level. And you basically have to shift the level around to help your hero reach the end. Now, I absolutely love this concept. And once again, it's definitely one of those games that I would really like to try out. Hopefully I can pick up a review code somewhere. Not only that, but once again, I think that the cutesy art style that they went for here really works for this type of game. And overall, if you're looking at picking up something on the budget side, I think this is going to be one of your best shots for this week. So there we have it. Those were the releases that stuck out to me. However, if you think I missed a game, let me know in the comments down below. At the same time, let me know which was your favorite game from today's list and which ones you're going to be picking up. And don't forget, on the way out, to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you aren't already, and click on the notification bell so you know when all my future content comes out. And as usual, I'll see you in my next video.